The first note appeared on a Tuesday in September. It was sitting on the corner of my desk in third period English, folded into a neat little rectangle. My name written on the outside in blue ink. Marisol. Just that. No last name, no return address, no explanation whatsoever. I looked around. Half the class was still shuffling in from the hallway. The other half was staring at their phones like the phones owed them money. Nobody was watching me. I picked it up, turned it over, set it back down. Then Mr. Patterson started talking about The Great Gatsby, and I shoved the note into my binder and did not think about it again. That is a lie. I thought about it for approximately 7 hours, including through dinner, through my shower, and through the first 40 minutes of trying to fall asleep. But I didn't open it, and I still couldn't tell you exactly why. Not then, anyway. I just knew that I wasn't going to. Some things you know about yourself before you understand them. The next day, there was another one. Same fold, same blue ink, same neat little rectangle with Marisol on the outside. This time, I looked up fast enough to catch the tail end of something. A hand pulling back from my desk. A sleeve, dark green hoodie. I turned all the way around, and there was a boy 2 rows behind me pretending to read page 47 of a book we hadn't been assigned yet. His name was Caleb Morrow. He was the kind of quiet that people confuse with boring, which is a mistake, because boring people are boring everywhere. In the cafeteria, on the bus, at their own birthday parties. Caleb was only quiet in rooms that expected noise, which, in high school, is basically every room. He had dark eyes and the kind of handwriting that looked like it belonged in an architecture firm. I knew this because I'd seen his class notes once, accidentally, when his binder fell open in the hallway.
Wait, what is this?
It's nothing, just some notes.
These look like blueprints. This is amazing.
It looked like blueprints. Precise, deliberate, like someone who cared very much about things being exactly right. I put that second note in my binder next to the first one. I did not open either of them.
Okay, so the boy who draws blueprints for fun is leaving you secret notes and you're just filing them? I'm not filing them, Mari. You put them in a binder with color-coded tabs. Those tabs were already there. There are 6 notes. You have not opened one. That is textbook filing. I just don't feel like reading them right now. Right now, Marisol. It has been 3 weeks.
Ren Calloway had been my best friend since 5th grade, when she defended my honor in the lunch line by telling Tyler Brock that his book report smelled like he'd written it in a parking lot. He had. She was not wrong. I loved her immediately and completely. She was also, unfortunately, almost always right about everything, which made her exhausting to argue with and absolutely essential to have around. She thought I wasn't opening the notes because I was being strategic, playing it cool, letting the tension build the way girls in movies do when they already know exactly how the story ends. She was wrong, but I didn't correct her. The truth is, I have had a complicated relationship with words my entire life. Not with speaking. I can talk. I can talk the paint clean off a wall, my mother says, and she does not mean it as a compliment. I mean words on a page. Printed words. Handwritten words. Words that sit still and wait for you to decode them, and then quietly rearrange themselves when you blink, like they're playing a game you were never taught the rules to. I was diagnosed when I was 7. Dyslexia, the pediatrician said. Like it was a simple thing with a simple name that you could file under D and deal with on a Thursday. My mother cried in the car on the way home. I sat in the back seat watching highway signs blur past the window and thought, well, there it is. The thing about growing up with dyslexia, the specific, grinding, invisible thing, is that you get very, very good at hiding it. You memorize. You anticipate. You learn to read a room before you read a page. You learn that people will fill in your silences if you let them, and that the fastest way to avoid embarrassment is to make yourself useful in every other way first. I was the girl who remembered everything you told her. I was the girl who could do long division in her head faster than most kids could find their calculators. I was the girl who made everyone laugh at the exact right moment, which is a real skill. A genuine skill, and nobody ever gives it the credit it deserves. And I was the girl who had a binder full of unread notes from a boy who had the most precise, deliberate, absolutely unreadable handwriting she had ever seen in her entire life. By October, there were 24 notes. I know because I counted them every single night. I did not open them, but I counted them, sitting on my bedroom floor with the binder in my lap, running my thumb along the folded edges like I was reading Braille. Like, maybe if I touched them long enough, the words would travel through my skin and skip the part where my brain had to fight with them. They did not. Caleb never mentioned them. Not once. He sat 2 rows behind me in English, and he passed a new note to my desk every single morning, slid it across when Mr. Patterson had his back turned, or dropped it while walking past on his way to the pencil sharpener, like the world's least covert operative. And then he went back to his seat and read whatever we were reading, and he did not watch me waiting for a reaction. That part was strange. Most people who want something from you keep one eye on you to see if they're getting it. Caleb just left the notes and returned to his own life, like the leaving was the whole point. My other best friend Garrett had a theory. Garrett Finch was 6 feet tall, perpetually sunburned, despite spending most of his time indoors. A biological mystery he blamed entirely on his mother's side, and so deeply invested in true crime podcasts that his own father had once staged an informal intervention. Garrett thought Caleb was running a long game. He thought the notes were building towards something big, something architectural. He used the word architectural without any apparent irony. He was not entirely wrong.
What if the notes are a puzzle?
That is the most Garrett idea ever.
Each note could be a letter.
There aren't that many letters, Garrett.
Open one note. One note. I am on my knees.
I will, just not yet.
I was 100% not enjoying the mystery. By November, I had 43 notes and a tension headache that arrived every morning around 8:47, which was approximately 4 minutes before Caleb Morrow walked into 3rd period English. The thing I hadn't planned for, the thing slowly making me lose my mind, was that I had started to like him. Not because of the notes, despite them, because of the way he argued about books in class discussion without ever being obnoxious about it. Because he always held the door. Not performatively, just automatically, like a reflex his body had developed independent of his brain. Because one afternoon in October, I'd seen him on the front steps helping a kid from the middle school with a math worksheet. This tiny girl with 2 pom-pom buns, just sitting there working through it with her, unhurried, like he had all the time that had ever existed. I did not tell Ren or Garrett any of this. Because the more I liked him, the worse the notes felt. Not bad worse, complicated worse. The kind of worse that runs laps inside your head at 2 in the morning. Because here's the scenario I could not stop replaying. Caleb asks me about the notes. I say I didn't read them. He asks why. And then what? What exactly do I say? Sorry, words and I have a long-standing disagreement. Very charming. Very smooth. Really selling myself there. I had told almost nobody. My mother knew, obviously. My resource teacher in middle school had known. Ren had figured it out on her own in 7th grade. She'd noticed I always moved my lips slightly when I read, and that I never once read anything out loud in class without having practiced it privately first. She'd never made it into a whole thing. That was Ren's specific, quiet genius. She could know something enormous about you and just adjust, gently, without turning it into a conversation you weren't ready for. Garrett didn't know. My teachers here didn't know. This was a new school, new state, Mom's job transfer junior year, and I had deliberately not re-enrolled in any support services. I was 17. I was tired. I told myself I was managing fine. I was managing fine the way someone treading water in the deep end is technically not drowning. December, 65 notes. And then one afternoon the week before winter break, I was at my locker and I dropped my binder and the whole thing detonated across the hallway floor. Papers everywhere, the clasp broken, and every single folded note skidding out across the tile like someone had shuffled a deck of cards very aggressively and with personal animosity toward me specifically. I hit the floor immediately, grabbing at them. People stepped around me. Someone's sneaker grazed the edge of one, and I snatched it back with probably more desperation than was strictly dignified. And then a pair of hands were beside mine on the floor, gathering notes carefully, not unfolding any of them, just picking them up and stacking them. I looked up. Caleb. He looked at the stack of 65 notes in his hand, all still folded, all still sealed. He looked at me. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he set them down on my binder, stood up, picked up a textbook that had also fallen, placed it on top, and walked away. He didn't leave a note the next day, or the day after that. Winter break arrived, and I sat on my bedroom floor with 65 notes in my lap and thought, this is the part where you fix something. This is the part where you stop pretending the problem is somewhere outside of you.
I need to tell you something.
Okay.
I can't read the notes well. I have dyslexia. The words just move.
I know.
Mari, I should have seen it. I've been hiding it.
January. No notes for the first 2 weeks back. I re-enrolled in the Learning Support Program the first Tuesday of the new semester. My new resource teacher was a woman named Miss Hale, who had a poster on her wall that said, "Different brains build different things," and who did not, at any point, look at me like I was a problem to be managed. This sounds like a small thing. It is genuinely not a small thing. I also got Caleb's number from Garrett, who handed it over with 0 questions, and the expression of a man who had been quietly waiting for this exact moment since approximately October. I texted Caleb on a Wednesday evening. I typed and deleted the message 4 separate times. The version I finally sent said, "I owe you an explanation. Can we talk?" He replied in 5 minutes. "Yeah. Tomorrow? Front steps after school?" I said yes. I practiced what I was going to say the way I'd always practiced reading out loud. Slowly, in pieces, alone in my room, until it stopped feeling like falling and started feeling like something closer to standing upright. The next afternoon, I sat down on the front steps and Caleb sat down beside me. And for a moment, we both just watched the school buses pull out of the loop like we were attending a very low-budget, very slow-moving drive-in movie.
I never opened your notes.
I know.
It's my dyslexia. My handwriting is a mess, and I try so hard, but it became this whole thing I was carrying alone.
Can I tell you something? My sister has it too. I get it. I'd like to read them to you, if you want. All of them. From the first one.
Caleb, that's 65 notes.
I know, I wrote them. I've got time. I've kind of been demonstrating that for a while now.
He read me the first one right there on the steps. It was not a declaration. It was not a love letter. It was 4 sentences about a passage in The Great Gatsby that had made him laugh out loud in class, and a question. Did I think Fitzgerald actually liked any of his characters, or did he just find all of them quietly exhausting? It was the most Caleb thing in the entire world. He read me 7 notes that afternoon. We sat there until the parking lot was nearly empty, and the January light went flat and gray, and the janitor came outside, looked at us, looked back inside, and made a decision that suggested he was not being paid enough for this particular situation. I started working with Miss Hale twice a week. I told Garrett, who said he'd suspected something since October, which was both annoying and completely accurate. And I let Ren help me figure out which classes needed accommodation requests and how to ask for them, without feeling like I was filing paperwork to exist. Caleb kept all 65 notes. He'd bring a few in his jacket pocket and read them to me at lunch, or after class, or sitting on the hood of Garrett's car in the parking lot while Garrett complained loudly about the cold and definitely did not leave. By March, he had read me every single one. The last note, note 65, the one from the afternoon my binder broke open across the hallway floor, was the longest. Half a page. It said he'd noticed I never read anything aloud in class, that he'd noticed the way I held books sometimes, very close and then very far, like I was searching for the right distance, that he didn't know exactly what was going on, but that whatever it was, he wasn't leaving, that he wanted me to know someone was staying put. I had carried that note for 6 weeks without knowing what was inside it. I had carried a lot of things for a long time without knowing what was inside them. The story I used to tell myself was that I was fine, coping, handling it, that hiding was the same thing as managing, and that needing help was the same thing as being weak. I was 17 years old, and I had built my entire personality into a system designed to make sure nobody looked too closely. Caleb looked closely. He just did it quietly enough that I never thought to guard against it. There is a specific kind of relief that comes from being known by someone before you finished explaining yourself. I don't think English has a word for it. It probably should. It definitely should. It's been 8 months since he read me that last note on the hood of Garrett's car while Red sat on the curb pretending to look at her phone and heard every single word. Last week in English class, Mr. Patterson asked for a volunteer to read aloud. I raised my hand. I'd practiced the passage 3 times the night before, slowly, out loud in my room. I read it clearly. I got every word in the right order. Caleb didn't look at me like he was waiting to see how I did. He just smiled at his desk, like he already knew exactly how this part was going to go. Some people leave notes. Some people stay long enough to read them back to you. And sometimes, the story you thought was about someone choosing you turns out to be about finally choosing yourself. That's the one worth reading.